Hey guys, Scott here. It's no secret I have been thinking about Dracula's strength, at least relative to Spirit, and a lot of people are disagreeing with my take that Dracula is better than Spirit. And I have to make this clear when I say this. I don't think he's like so much better than Spirit. I think we're talking about like a difference of like one or two places on a tier list. Like if Dracula was 5, Spirit would be like a 6 or something. It's really not a very, harsh argument for either killer. So it's not a very like severe thing. I just want to make that clear. But I do think Dracula is slightly better. And I've had a bunch of people argue with me, say that's obviously not true, and that's completely fine. We're all entitled to our opinions and all of that good stuff. And I do think Dracula is still relatively too new to kind of prove this yet. I would still love to see like a showcase between like a good Spirit and a good Dracula player and compare them like one of Hens's showcase or something like that. I would love to see that. I just don't really have any contacts that play either of these killers that would, probably do that. Other than like Rayoxium, I know she plays Spirit, but that's pretty much it, all I know. So I do think that Spirit is not quite as good as Dracula. I want to go over exactly why with my extremely handy chalkboard texture here that totally has a watermark to the left that I have cut off. And I want to just go over the pros and cons of each, and we'll just weigh them and see who's better overall. So first up, things that Spirit does better. Spirit is just simply going to do dropped pallets better than Dracula. So if we have like, a standard, just junk loop like this, so just like a rock here, and then, just a longer rock here, and then like a pallet right here. So Spirit is typically going to handle these a lot better. So if the pallet is pre-dropped, which is typically the right thing to do against the Spirit, back when I was trying to find Spirit counterplay years and years ago, every comp player that I went against and every comp player that told me, basically what you do is you pre-drop a pallet against Spirit and force her to sort of make a 50-50 on which side of the pallet you're on. That's the only real safe way to do it. So let's assume that the player is going to play this in the safe way. They pre-drop the pallet, so we have the survivor right here. And then we have, let's say, the Spirit. Damn it, these are both S's. Spirit is right here. So in this scenario, the Spirit has an option. The Spirit's option is to sit face here, go around this way, and then try to hit the survivor there. Or they can go around the shorter side, go around and try to hit them there. Or they can try to mind game them by going around this way, so the directional audio shifts to the survivor's right, and then immediately doubling back to hit them as they vault the pallet. So none of these are really guaranteed hits for the Spirit, but they are definitely things that she can do. It is an actual option to get a hit from this scenario. Now, Dracula in bat form, Dracula right here, he actually can't get a hit here if the survivor plays perfectly. The correct play for a survivor in this scenario, this is an objective correct play, there's no other option to make here. If you have a pre-drop pallet like this and the Dracula's in bat form chasing you, and there's not enough distance to get to another loop, you just sit at the pallet and you don't do anything. You wait for the Dracula to transition back into main Dracula form, at which point, if he's on the same side as you, you have just enough time to vault over the pallet, and if he's on the other side, you just simply stand still or just run the other way. So that is the correct way to handle Dracula in that scenario. And so Spirit has a chance to get a hit, Dracula has no chance to get a hit, so I do think Spirit at a pre-drop pallet does come out on top. But I do want to give a bit of a counterpoint. I still think Spirit is better in this scenario, but there is something Dracula can do that I didn't even know about before I started playing Dracula. So I didn't realize you can kick pallets in bat form. It's usually not something that would make sense because you can just fly over the pallet, so why would you waste time kicking it? But if I see a survivor is smart and they are capable of understanding that this is the correct counterplay, what I do as the killer, I can basically zone them to go wherever I want. So if there's like a dead zone here or a dead zone here, I can kick the pallet on whatever side I want to force them away from me. And that ends up being really good. So let's say they're on this side of the map and the dead zone's here. What I can do is fly over to this side. Now I'm basically phased inside of the survivor who's still patiently waiting because that's the correct play. And then I just kick the pallet. Now the thing is, kicking the pallet looks like the same animation as transitioning into Dracula for about half a second. Then it becomes clear that you have like a ghostly ethereal form, so it's not quite the same. But that little bit of half second is kind of all you need to make the survivor think you're transitioning back. So often what will happen here is you can force a survivor to panic vault to whatever side that you want by doing that. But the thing is, you can't vault when the pallet is being kicked. So what actually ends up happening is you're on this side, you start kicking the pallet, the survivor might start trying to press the vault button. They're like, wait, I can't vault. Oh shit, he's kicking the pallet. That little half second of like deliberation in their head is usually enough for them to really not make that much distance at all. And the thing is, you know which direction they're going to go. They physically cannot go this way because you can't vault a pallet that's being broken. So they're gonna go in a cone this way or this way. This is the angle of where they're going to go. It's gonna be somewhere in this whole section. And so not only do you know which direction they're gonna go, but they have like a second and a half to do it while you're also moving at 6.5 meters a second. So you're moving 60% faster than the survivor. You know where they're going to go. The point is, if you go on the same side as the survivor and kick the pallet, you can hit them again in 5 seconds as long as you track them properly. And so on paper, that sounds honestly stronger than Spirit because you can just simply brute force the pallet down. You don't even have to chance hitting them around this side or hitting them around this side. You don't have to chance any of it. Just kick the pallet and then just follow them as they try to get to another loop in 5 seconds, which they're not going to be able to make. So in practice and in theory, that sounds better than Spirit, but having actually tried this a bunch, it's not so simple. And one of the major reasons is Dracula's bat form is actually bugged. So another thing that people don't know is you're actually supposed to hear footsteps 50% louder in bat form, but you just don't. They're just not louder at all. I would argue they might be more silent or something. They might have put a negative value or something like that there, but this is something that has been data mined from the game. This is supposed to be a thing. You're supposed to hear footsteps 50% louder, but you just simply don't. You've tested this. There's no volume difference whatsoever. So that is a issue because as you are kicking the pallet on this side, that's pretty loud, and then the footsteps are not being louder. So you have this combination of a bunch of loud shit happening at the same time, and so you don't know exactly if you should start going this way or start going this way. And if you spend even 1 second going the wrong way, that gives the survivor 6 more seconds of forward distance this way. So you need to be really on point and hearing where they're going. And things like Strider and stuff like that can help, especially if they're injured, then it's kind of free. But if they're not injured, tracking a healthy survivor in bat form after a pallet kick in practice was harder than I thought it would be. So I would say only about half the time I was able to perfectly track them and hit them again in 5 seconds. Now, in a world where sound actually worked properly and the footsteps were louder, this would, I think, actually be stronger in favor of Dracula. This would legitimately be better for Dracula than Spirit, because while Spirit has a chance of hitting, Dracula can guarantee a hit in like 5 or 6 seconds, assuming there's not a chain tile right next to this one, which can happen, but pretty uncommon nowadays in 2024 DBD. But until the footstep sounds are fixed and things like that, I have to say Spirit wins out on this scenario because, yeah, in practice, it's not so simple. There's too many loud sounds happening. Scratches sometimes bug out or something like that. And one of the good things is, though, you can see if there's no scratch marks. If there's no new scratch marks, you just immediately transition back because you know they're walking, which means they're gaining like no distance. So typically all you need is just to see scratches in a direction, and then just you can end your phase or end your transition to, you can go into bat form a lot quicker, and that's fine. But all that being said, in reality, Spirit wins in this scenario at a pre-drop pallet. So I have to give that to Spirit 100%. Now, let's go to a different scenario. Let's go to a tile with a window. Let's make a very crude diagram of like a long wall jungle gym, which would be, you know, just kind of like this. The window would be right here. Pallet would say would be right here. That's right? Yeah, that's right. Okay, I know I butchered this, but you know what I'm looking at here. So in this scenario, I feel like Dracula actually is slightly stronger than Spirit. And because Spirit does not handle windows as well as Dracula. And again, we're still just talking about bat form, not even the other powers that Dracula has. But Spirit does not handle windows as well. So say the Survivor is right here, Dracula is right here, and he's in bat form. Now the Survivor has a couple of options here. They can try to just run around this way, but if they go too far here, and the Dracula, you know, ends his bat form, you're not going to make the pallet in time. The transition time is like 1.2 seconds. You're just not going to have time to do that. So that is not going to work most of the time. So what a lot of people will do is the Survivor will vault the window and they end up about here. But Dracula is much faster than you, and he can just simply fly ahead of you, transition here, block you from getting the pallet, and hit you there. So another thing a Survivor can do is vault that, see the Dracula's going for the pallet block, and then immediately vault the window back. But the Dracula can also predict that and simply fly in and then just double back immediately and then catch you at the end of your medium vault. The transition time is 1.2 seconds. So a medium vault is 1.2 seconds. So basically, if he catches you in a medium vault, you're going to get hit. So the windows are not really safe. Now, again, this is not a guaranteed hit for Dracula by any means. It's interesting because the Survivor has the option to think that the Dracula is going to double back to the window and simply go to the pallet, and they could be completely fine. They might have, I don't know, a perk that makes the vault quiet or something like that, which can fuck with Dracula. There's still things the Survivor can do. I'm like saying, for Spirit or Dracula, this scenario is not a guaranteed hit for either killer. I just think this slightly favors Dracula because Spirit basically has to kind of make one all-in guess of where they're going to end up and also be on the right side of the pallet to actually hit them, which is hard because if the survivor is sitting at the pallet, they can hear if the spirit is coming on this side or is going to be on this side. You can't really fake that with the directional audio. You can very clearly tell if you're sitting at the pallet if they're going to be on this side or this side. So there's no like mind gaming that really. But with Dracula, you can obviously see the killer, but it doesn't matter that much because he can just simply fly through the window and try to block the pallet off or read that you're going to vault back. But again, like I said, these are not guaranteed hits for either killer. I just think it's better slightly for Dracula in this scenario. And the best part is, if the spirit fucks up and goes around this way and then, eats a stun here, or the survivor pre-drops a pallet and she doesn't have time to go all the way around him on this side, her entire power is just gone again. And she has to wait, depending on your add-ons, between, 9 and 15 seconds for that to come back. But Dracula can just go in bat form and just try the shit again in 2.5 seconds. Or if the pallet becomes pre-dropped, do the last thing I talked about, just brute force it down and catch up before they can get anywhere else again. So in that scenario, I feel like with a strong window, then the Dracula absolutely comes out on top there. Now, there's other scenarios where kind of neither of them come out on top. We have like Shack, for example, where there's a vault right next to the pallet. In that scenario, you can't really cover both options. So at the very best with Dracula, you'll get a dropped pallet and you'll get through Shack pallet very quickly. But at the same time, that pre-drop pallet can't really be countered by Spirit by any meaningful way anyway. I've seen people try it, and sometimes it works against babies, and that's fine. But we're talking about against good players here. Both are not really guaranteed a hit. But again, this is assuming that only bat form exists. Dracula still has other powers that help at the Shack. We'll say here's the window here, and then here's the doorway 1, here's doorway 2. So Dracula has other powers. He can use the wolf form to lunge here and then lunge here on the corner to kind of do a Wesker double charge to hit someone going that way. Or if the survivor happens to make it to the window here, Dracula can just round the corner here with Hellfire prepared, and he just has to hold it until your animation locked. He doesn't have to do shit. Either you run to here, which offers you essentially no dodging room whatsoever, and he just does it at the pallet and you get hit, or you vault the window and you get hit, or you just do neither of these things and Dracula just slowly waltzes his way over to the pallet, blocks it. Now you don't have any options really. You can just sit there and you kind of are just stuck. Unless you perfectly predict that he's going to drop his hand and then medium vault as that's happening, you're just going to get hit in that scenario almost every single time. And if that didn't work and you make it to the outside, then he's got wolf form to double hit you there. Spirit can't really do that. She can, if the pallet is dropped, that's it. Like you're not able to get a hit there. Now again, as Spirit, you can just kick the pallet and probably catch up and hit them in that way, and that's completely fine. But in these types of scenarios with strong windows, I do legitimately feel like bat form comes out on top. And again, like I said, I've barely even touched the other fact that there are other powers in play that Dracula actually has. And Hellfire is really easy to dodge, which is why you just save it for zoning and animation locks. That's, I think, legitimately the best way, the most boring way, but the best way to use it that I've found. Again, I'm not particularly good with Dracula yet. I'm still kind of learning him myself, but those are the absolute safest ways to ensure a survivor cannot dodge it. You boringly zone, walk to one of the escape routes, aim at the other route. They're just pretty much fucked. So that's not something Spirit can do either. But overall, one of the most important things that separate the two is the cooldown. The cooldown is such an important factor. Individually at a down pallet and a vacuum, Spirit wins. No one's going to argue that. But in window scenarios, Dracula can win. And in every other scenario, I feel like Dracula is notably better because Spirit doesn't really have very good map control. Spirit has to choose between map control or lethality. If you see someone across the map and you use your power for 5 seconds to get there, you're waiting for 15 seconds before you can do anything to that survivor. You're never going to hit them as a 110 killer with no power. It's just never going to happen. So you just have to sit there and wait. Whereas Dracula not only can fly almost as fast as Spirit phases, you can just teleport between floors. There are insane add-ons that involve that. I'm not even touching Medusa Head yet. Not even touching Lapis Lazuli, because I'm 100,000% sure, for example, Medusa Head's getting nerfed. There's no chance it's not. So I feel like it would be disingenuous to even include it in this discussion of balance, because there is no chance it's not already getting nerfed. So I'm not even going to talk about that. But as it stands right now, Dracula has insanely busted shit. But even without that, the ability to just simply teleport between floors is such a vitally strong power, or even just up tiles that are harder to get onto, like Grim Pantry, for example, not having to go all the way around to get there, just going straight up. Just being able to skip all of that stuff is such good map control, and Spirit can't even dream of having anything that is powerful like that. And the bat form, even without the teleport, still, like I said, Spirit moves at 7.04 ms in phase, and bat form is 6.5. So they're almost the same speed. Spirit is a little bit faster, but in terms of map control, the fact that you have 0 cooldown on bat form and a 15-second cooldown on Spirit, you have to take that into account. It's not like the entire game takes place at a pallet loop with your power-up every time. There's so much going back and forth. You can also kick pallets, and you can kick generators in bat form, which enables, perks like Pop Goes the Weasel, Eruption, things like that for even more value. You can even slap on perks like Dissolution to make the vaulting thing that you can do at a pallet versus Dracula's bat form even less effective. You can have things like crowd control, so you can't even try the vault back mind game. There are so many things you can do with Dracula to just deny every option that the survivor actually has that Spirit can do, but doesn't benefit as much because of the cooldown itself. So that is one of the main things that really, I think, makes Dracula a little bit better. The complete lack of cooldown on bat form alone, not even accounting for the other powers, but just the lack of cooldown compared to phase is just, it's such an important factor in terms of map control and even chase pressure. If the Spirit fucks up, she kind of has to wait there and do nothing for 9 seconds. That's with the Rusty Flute, with the cooldown add-ons, and she's reliant on those add-ons to even play, and Dracula just gets all that stuff by default. So that's definitely a huge thing. Now, there's the obvious other part that Spirit is just invisible, and Dracula is very visible when their powers are being used. Again, for the 4th time, I'm not even talking about Hellfire and Wolf. I'm just talking about Bat Form right now, just one of the 3 powers. And I've heard that the Wolf Form is even better than I give it credit for from Dracula players that have been playing him for a while. So he might even be stronger than I actually think he is, which is kind of crazy. But the whole thing with using... God, I'm just going in circles now. I'm trying not to repeat myself. I guess we'll just go back to the whole original point. It comes down to the map control. I think that's the main issue, and I think that Dracula's chase potential is powerful enough to circumvent the fact that in a vacuum, Spirit's individual ability to get hit is going to be better in more scenarios than Dracula. But overall, Spirit has been nerfed so many times. Like, Spirit used to be like the 3rd best killer. I don't think anyone would even argue that. It was basically nerfed Blight Spirit or Spirit Blight, depending on how you looked at it. But Spirit has been nerfed so many times that I don't know how people still think Spirit is like the 3rd best. It doesn't make any sense to me. How was she the 3rd best before like 10 nerfs? And then after 10 nerfs, she's still the 3rd best. Like, it doesn't make any sense. She was nerfed like with her add-ons. MDR got nerfed. Prayer Beads was nerfed. Wakazashi was nerfed. Obviously the directional audio was a significant nerf. The whole duration cooldown interaction, where if you ran duration add-ons, it would indirectly affect your cooldown being faster as well. That was a massive nerf. Like, Spirit has gotten a ton of nerfs over time. She's currently bugged to have her Husk play while she's in phase. She's always bugged in some way. Like, Spirit has been nerfed so many times. I don't know how people still think she's the same strength she was when she came out. Like, it's just not even remotely close. And yet, on a lot of people's tier list, she hasn't budged at all, which just makes no sense to me. So, basically, the whole argument here is Spirit, to me, is more like 5, 6, 7, and Dracula is like 4, 5, 6 for me. Again, we're nitpicking here. Very small differences. But overall, I would really love to see a actual showcase, because I'm talking about more theories of things than showing you things that are actually happening. And I would love to see in practice someone that's very good at both killers against a comp team, just see who does better. Just show me like that. I would love to see it. And if I'm proven wrong, that's fine. Because again, we're talking about just like or this. If I'm here and I'm wrong, okay, whatever. If I'm here, I'm right, whatever. It's such a minor difference, but I would really love to see that. So anyone that's capable of doing that, it's a plea to you. I would love to see some type of showcase between a very good Dracula and a very good Spirit, and just compare results there. Obviously, limit the add-ons. Don't allow Spirit to use MDR. Don't allow Medusa Head to be used. Those things are busted beyond belief. But for the most part, I do think Dracula's a bit better. I'm ranting too much now. It's been almost 20 minutes. I'm just going to call it here. Thanks for watching. See you next time.